Hello and welcome. Good afternoon. We hope that you are well and thank you for joining us today for this webinar on Compass Gold. My name is Jacob Willoughby and I'm the Vice President of Research and Analyst at Red Cloud Securities Incorporated. Joining me remotely today are Larry Phillips, President and CEO, and Dr. Sandy Archibald, Technical Director of Compass Gold, as well as two other members of the technical team that we'll hear from in the question and answer part. So we'll begin today's webinar with a presentation on the company by Larry and Sandy, followed by the question and answer period. And as a reminder, you can type in your questions at any time and we'll try to get through as many as we can. But before we begin, I'd like to note that there may be some forward-looking statements made on this webinar. I would direct listeners to the cautionary notes on page 2 of Compass Gold's corporate presentation located on their website. For Red Cloud Securities Incorporated, I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation to purchase or sell securities or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. Also, we note that this webinar does not take into account the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigations and seek their own professional advice before investment. Company-specific disclosures for Red Cloud are the following. In the last 12 months preceding the date of issuance of the research report or recommendation, Red Cloud Securities Incorporated has performed investment banking services and has been retained under a service or advisory agreement by the issuer. In the last 12 months, a partner, director, or officer of Red Cloud Securities or the analyst involved in the preparation of the research report has received compensation for investment banking services from the issuer. And now I'm very happy to introduce you to you, Larry Phillips and Dr. Sandy Archibald from Compass Gold.
Jacob, thank you very much, and appreciation to Red Cloud for hosting this, our first webinar of the 2021 year. I know that there are some listeners who are new to the company and Compass Gold, as well as shareholders and investors who are familiar. Today we'll provide a little bit of information about the company and our background, and then focus in on our most recent drilling results, updating everyone, and describing what our next steps are going to be in the weeks and months ahead. Exploration that we're doing is in the prospective and highly prolific southern region of Mali, West Africa, and that's where our presentation will take us. Next slide. Our forward-looking statement, I guess some of the same information that Jacob alluded to, and on to the next slide. In summarizing where we believe the advantage for Compass Gold shareholders sits, we are focusing on our people, an experienced team both at the corporate and management level, and in particular at the exploration level. We have a significant ground package, really one of the largest ones in this prolific area, never before drilled on in southern Mali. And we've already provided some excitement with several discoveries, trends, mineralized zones that we've been following up on, and the drilling most recently is going to illuminate our confidence in a couple of these particular trends. And this is work for the first 6 months of the year that's been fully funded. The drilling that we've been doing and that we'll be talking about is based on two well-funded successful financings in 2021, or sorry, in 2020. All right, next slide. Here's our experienced team, both on the management and board level. I'm very blessed to have a group of people that have had success not only in corporate development and success in building companies in this region. Many of us from the IAMGOLD company that began back in 1990, and Dr. Madani Diallo, who heads up our technical program in Mali, has over 30 years of experience in multiple discoveries in this region. And we're very proud to have such a strong corporate team in this junior company looking to repeat our success in this region. Beyond our corporate team, really our discovery team in Mali is the pride of the company. Just in these top 5 individuals led by Dr. Madani Diallo, you have more than 120 years of cumulative experience, discovery success in this region. Their participation and success in discovery spans multiple major gold resources, not just at IAMGOLD, but Anglo Gold Ashanti within Mali and beyond the borders of Mali as well. So this is the team that's on the ground doing the work, and their experience and track record for this area is second to none. The next slide. Just a quick snapshot on the capital structure of the company. It's important to note that we are a closely held company between the ownership position of management and board, various private placements. So as a result, this represents a very opportune time for investors to be looking at Compass Gold. Current share price is well below our 52-week high, and we're now moving into the exploration, drilling, and results that should drive that share price and value in the months to come. We are cashed up, as I said, and we're for the first 6 months of the year, and we're ready to go. Just a quick snapshot on the next slide of where we're working. The red boxes outlined there represent this total of over 850 square kilometers of ground, handpicked by Madani Diallo and his team, never before drilled on before it came into the Compass company. And our properties, not just in one single block, but they've been carefully located across 3 separate greenstone belts. You'll also notice a number of existing commercial deposits, deposits that are in development, in production, and significantly, we're within trucking distance of known gold deposits. In particular, south of the Anfalilla South Block, where we've been drilling, we have one of our largest shareholders, Endeavour Gold, holding the Kalina deposit of more than 5.2 million ounces. So we're not just located in a geographic sense, well located, but strategically looking forward to the development of any resources, deposits that we discover. We're in the midst of some of the best known and most successful producing companies in the world. So that's where we are. Next slide. Yeah, just a snapshot of where we're focused on. We've identified 3 major gold trends, each of them more than 10 kilometers in length. The work that we've been doing this past year and most recently in our drilling has built upon initial exploration metrics, geochemical anomalies at surface, artisanal workings, as well as drilling. And we're showing bedrock mineralization in all 3 of these large trends, Terabala, Salmon Gear, and Farabakura. And in this most recent drilling, you'll hear about our results at the Terabala and Salmon Gear trends. But just to emphasize that we're onto these large, significant structures. These are the initial sections that we've focused our drilling on. Over time, there may be many other sections of these trends that will undergo drilling in order to identify the best opportunity for near surface, open pitable gold for drill holes that are located, and to be able to move through the rainy season with a continued drilling program. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Sandy Archibald. He is our technical director, and he'll take you through some of the results that we've had, what they tell us, and what that means in terms of next steps over these next few weeks and months. Sandy?
Thank you very much, Larry. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to stay for a second on this slide. This is the Hummingbird Resources Kamana West pit, and it shows you the sort of target we're looking for. We're looking for an open pittable, near surface resource, a target. The diagram, the picture also shows the relative scale of the structure. There's a bit of a brownish smudge just right of center. That's the mineralized structure in that pit. It's 25 to 35 meters in width. So that gives you an appreciation of the sort of target we're looking for. Near surface, wide. Most Malian deposits are relatively low grade with high grade zones within it. So you have to bear that in mind as we go through the presentation. High grade's always nice, but we're in an environment where low grade bulk tonnage is really the key. So Larry touched upon the mineralized trends, and there's 3 identified trends just now, with an emerging 4th trend. When we talk about a trend, we're talking about there's faults, these major faults the mines are on. That's one component of the trend. There's the presence of artisanal workings. That shows there's gold in a trend for the local miners. There's soil geochemical anomalism. So that shows that trend, the plumbing, the fault, the plumbing can contain gold as well. And the geophysics also ties into the structure. So when we talk about a trend, we are saying there's proof that we have a gold bearing system there. Really, the proof in the pudding is in the eating, and in exploration geology, that is in terms of drilling. So the first trend we're looking at is the Tarabala trend, as it says in the top, and it's a 10-kilometer trend. You see it stretches from Masala in the north, if you look at the figure on the left. Masala in the north, it goes through Tarabala, smaller workings at Yala, and to the south at Asama. Okay, so these are all on this Tarabala fault or on a splay, and there's also parallel structures. So Sodala to the east is a parallel structure. We'll come back to that a bit later on, but I'm going to talk about the exciting results that we've received for Tarabala. It was in the press release yesterday, and we targeted in December a 2.3 kilometer segment of this 10-kilometer long fault zone. Earlier drilling last year provided the grades and the widths that we see in the body of the text there. So we get 15 meters plus of mineralization. It's low grade, or 0.5 or higher. That'd be low grade. There's parts within intervals within that drilling which would be considered high grade, like there's 4 meters at 5 grams per ton. So we're getting the sort of mineralization that we see in the rest of Mali. We've got good widths there, and we wanted to follow up that drilling that we performed in May with additional drilling that we did in December. And that was released yesterday, and the results yesterday. And just a summary at the bottom, that was a 1,500 meter drilling program. Positive results that allows us to plan 1,700 and change program for later on this month and in February. That's scheduled. And moving ahead, it looks like things are working out that additional RC drilling is warranted in this area. Now, moving on to the next slide, we can see the press release yesterday provided all the intervals, the widths. We're getting widths up to 31 meters of low-grade mineralization. We're getting 4, 5, 6, even 8 meters of mineralization with higher grade. We're getting grades over 1 meter of 12, 13 grams per ton. And I've summarized that in a figure on the left here. And we can see that within the 2.3 kilometer zone we tested, we got 1.1 kilometer zone of what we would consider really interesting, approaching the sort of grades, widths that you'd like to prove up to determine if resource definition drilling is warranted. It's near surface, and the colored dots are really showing us that in the southern part and the northern part, we've got minor mineralization, and we've got this 1.1 kilometer zone of much better mineralization. We have to remember that a typical mine, what's a footprint of an open pit mine in Mali? We're looking at a length of about 650 to 750 meters in length. Typically, the width is about 400 to 450 meters in width. So we could easily put, if it's economic, an open pitable resource in this panel of mineralization that we're investigating. So we've got a wide zone, and if we look on the cross section on the right, there's a few takeaways here. It's shallow. We've tested mineralization within about 50 meters, 50 meters of the surface. We can see that the mineralization is concentrated in a defined dipping structure. That structure varies between 15 meters to the north all the way to 31 meters in width. We've got higher grade zones in it. It seems to be getting, the only section we have done with RC is the section that's on the screen. It's indicating that the width is increasing with depth. The structure is open at depth as well. So this is only one section on that 1.1 kilometer strike length of prospective structure. That is the focus of our next phase of drilling that will start before the end of the month. So I'm very pleased. It's a technical success. It's given us really exciting numbers, good grades, good widths, and it's open. So the next slide.
Sandy, just before you leave that slide, you're indicating how it's open at depth or potentially open at depth. I think it's worth noting that what you're showing there is really only the top 60, 70 meters. And in fact, a structure like this could go down 150 or 200 meters and still be open pittable, depending on the grade and continuity. So it is significant that we'll be looking at a deeper level with follow-up drilling and still be within that open pit target zone.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. So highly prospective. That's just one zone right in the middle. We are seeing similar widths, 20 meters, 400 meters to the north of this section and 400 meters to the south of the section. So our previous drilling, you can see it on the left here with these little black and white dots along the target structure shown in red. That's a 200 meter spacing. Our next phase of drilling is the 100 meter infill spacing to give us the confidence and the comfort that that structure is continuous. We're also drilling some deeper RC holes in that area to tell us what the depth extension is like. These 100 meter infill holes are in yellow. We've revised the target model to the north. We don't think we hit the structures properly up there with the December drilling, and we've included some extra drilling in that area in the green dots we see. So that might open up the structure beyond the 1.1 kilometers. So I'm very happy with the way the program's gone. The style of mineralization, you have a string of pearls of mineralization. The structure is not continuous. It opens up where it tends to open up maybe every 1-2 kilometers. That's where you can concentrate the mineralization. That's what we think we have at Tarabala. We see evidence for that 5 kilometers to the north at a prospect called Masala, and we see it 4 kilometers to the south at a prospect called Asama. So this trend it's far from being a one-shot one-shot deal. It's got lots of potential, and that's typically what we see on all the prospects, on all the trends that we have in this portfolio. Okay, we also released some data on Salmon Gear. We drilled this area in the first half of 2020. We had some really interesting, nice results and some structural information for near-surface mineralization. We were getting grades 9 meters at nearly 6 grams per ton. And the question was, what structures are hosting that mineralization? Shear zones are notoriously difficult because you have different structures coming in. The figure on the left shows we've got little red light, the mineralization there. We believe that the dominant structure was a north-south trend. We tested it by drilling over a distance of 1.4 kilometers, or 1.5 kilometers. This is a blind target other than the artisanal pits. What we found was that the geophysics identified the structures. We drilled the structures. We got quartz veining precisely where the geophysics suggested the mineralization would be, but the gold results that we expected in these north-south structures did not come through. We ended up with evidence that the orientation of the mineralization, hindsight, it looks like it's northeast, southwest, and we're always refining our models here. That's just the way exploration geology works. We know that 9 meters at nearly 6 grams per ton didn't fall out of the sky. It must have come up from the ground. It seems to be in a northeast, southwest trend. That opens up this area to the west that's actually beneath the legend. We have to look at that. We have to do infill soils. We have a geophysical team on this area now doing additional geophysics because the shear zone is composed of numerous faults. Any one of those faults could host mineralization that's low grade with high grade pockets near surface, precisely our target. Okay. Now, that's where we are at Salmon Gear, but Salmon Gear, that's one prospect on the 10-kilometer long Salmon Gear trend that you see in the upper top left-hand corner. We have Salmon Gear, there's another prospect 2 kilometers away downtrend. Old Sam, we've got soil anomalism going down the trend, and then we've got a very strong soil anomaly at a prospect 10 kilometers away called Uru Uru. And we can see that in this slide. We can see where the Salmon Gear workings are. Beneath the word Salmon Gear in the figure, that green box is the site of our gradient IP targeting this parallel structure. We've got some strong, pronounced soil geochemistry in this block shown by red. Old Sam is sitting on that shear zone. It's got good structure as defined by the geophysics we did. It's on the fault zone. There's artisanal workings there. That will be the focus in Q2 of additional drilling work there. And the main target, really, when you see how broad the soil anomaly is, it's up to 4 kilometers wide. It covers a distance of 6 kilometers at Uru Uru. So it looks like at this location, we have the Salmon Gear trend joining a potential northeast trend, the Kuru trend. And as we come down, it breaks into different branches, and we can see there's artisanal workings in the area. We can see soil anomalism. We have a multitude of targets there. So we've got a conveyor belt of targets. We've got targets where we're talking about 100-meter infill drilling and deeper drilling at Tarabala. We've got targets, like in this case, where the soil anomalism, we need some geophysics to back it up. There's artisanal workings there. So we have numerous targets. Some of them are more advanced than other targets. These 2 targets, Uru Uru and Old Sam, will be drilled. Salmon Gear, we are coming back there once we reprocess our new data. Okay, Now we're moving north again, so we're moving about 40 kilometers north. I talked about the Kuru trend, the potential Kuru trend. If we draw a straight line from Ururu, it comes up through this prospect here, Sodala. It's parallel to the Tarabala trend. You can see it in the insert map. And what we have here is some of the highest grade soil anomalism encountered in southern Mali. It's the second highest grade of a soil sample, 31 grams per ton. The only sample I know that's greater is 36 grams per ton, and that's also on one of our other permits that I'm not talking about today. So this is the second highest soil sample. On the left, you can see the location of Sodala. You can see it's a small permit, but I've put in a schematic diagram there showing the typical Malian open pit with this 30-meter wide structure that I gave an example at Kamana, the picture at the start of my section here. And we've got mineralization over a kilometer. We've got soil anomalism over 1 kilometer. We've got a strong geophysical target. You can see the geophysics, that multicolored layer over the topography. We can see north-south structures coming in. We can clearly see a northeast trend following, marked by the yellow target ellipsoid. And we are in the final stages of locating the drill holes, 20 drill holes, approximately 1,000 meters on this target. Very strong target. The discovery team in Mali, the technical advisors over here in Canada, the board, are very upbeat about this target. That will be drilled in Q1. We're looking at February. And like most other work, any follow-up work is contingent on the results of this first work. We might do probably do additional air core work for the near surface environment. But again, proof in the pudding is deeper drilling. And we've also budgeted a 10-hole deeper drilling program to see what the depth potential is in this area. So that's Sodala. And this is the summary figure here that we're coming back to the trends. You can see our scheduled or budgeted programmed air core drilling prospects. We have Tarabala in the center. That's following up on these excellent results. Masala to the north, Sama to the south. So we will be drilling that in Q1. Sodala, it's very close to Tarabala, but logistically, we have to go through around the south of the lake, 1,000 meters drilling there. We have a trend that we looked at early on in Compass, the Farabakura trend. We have a new target there. It's funny how things change. Within the last year, a new set of shallow workings have been developed by the artisanal miners. It's in an area where we've got a very strong soil anomaly. We performed geophysics in that area before the rains in June last year, and we've got a pronounced geophysical anomaly as well. And we've budgeted one line, 750 meters of drilling at Dialeki on this Farabakura trend. Again, it's looking good. And then while we're working up, completing the rest of the data on the Salmon Gear trend, working up that geophysics, the geochemistry, doing additional prospecting, we have to drill test the targets at Old Sam, Uru, and back to Salmon Gear. So we're in the final stages of determining where to drill at Old Sam and Uru, but we do have a plan there. And as I've said, there's follow-up drilling, there's follow-up geophysics, and the overall plan at the start of my section was we want to be in a position by Q3 that pads are prepared, that when the rainy season comes along, there is no hiatus in drilling because we have a lot of quality drilling targets in our portfolio.
All right. Thank you, Sandy. Clearly, there's a lot of work going on. I want to make sure that all of our investors and shareholders understand that we're not going in several different directions or moving in tangents. This is very much focused, as Sandy referred to, having a pipeline. I think the image I would also refer to is it's really a funnel. We have 3, perhaps 4 of these trends that we're going to be drilling on. The idea is to be able to focus down, funnel down before the end of this year on where we think is the shortest distance between here and getting to obviously a commercial resource at an open pit target. And so this is a process that's going to continue. The results will advance our understanding of these trends. We're trying to bring our shareholders along through the process. So our commitment to regular updates and news on the drilling, where the priorities are taking us, where the drill results are taking us. That's part of the reason that we're working with the Red Cloud Group to help bring this information to the marketplace clearly, regularly, and we think that's going to be beneficial for the appreciation of what our team is doing and the value that's being created within Compass Gold here. So it may be every 2 to 3 weeks that there'll be updates available. We're certainly not going to wait for all of this work to be completed and then come back and say, here's what we found. We want folks to understand the steps that we're taking along the way. So it's an exciting year, a lot of great opportunities in these target zones and trends that have been identified. And every 2-3 weeks, we expect additional drilling results to help tell the story. All right. With that, I thank Sandy, and I'll turn it over to Jacob. I will note that also available online to help respond to any questions is Dr. Madani Diallo, one of our largest shareholders and director of all of the exploration in Mali, leading the team. He's available on the line, as well as Lou Nagy, our CFO. So with that, Jacob, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was an excellent presentation. There's a few questions to go through, so let's dive right in. First question from a participant is asking, what do you think the minimum number of ounces would be needed for a near-surface open pit mine to be viable in this part of southern Mali?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've seen deposits of less than 2 million ounces, 1.5 million ounces going into production. It'll obviously depend on grade, the processing of ore, how simple, how complicated that is. What I can say is most of the deposits that have gone into production in Mali have grown after the initial feasibility and construction has occurred. In fact, in the case of Sodala, when we found our first, about 2.8 million ounces, our partner at that time, Anglo Gold, said, okay, we're ready to sign off on a feasibility and start building. And our response was, well, wait a minute, there's more gold here to be found if we drill deeper and extend that pit. And they said, yeah, we'll do that and we'll find it, but we've got enough to start production. And indeed, many millions of ounces of that deposit were not discovered until the mine went into production. So I would say that 1.5 million to 1.5 million would be, at these gold prices, would probably be the threshold for a standalone mine. But having said that, 500,000 ounces that's within trucking distance to an existing mine that's up and running and has gone through all that capital expenditure also represents a commercial opportunity for a company like ours.
Right. Yeah, and I would agree with that as well. Another question from a participant asking specifically about gold mines in Mali and if there have any that have ceased operations in the last few years, and if so, what was the reason for them stopping?
I'll start with an answer, and I'd be interested to get Madani Diallo's perspective on that as well. In the case of Marilla and Sadiola, those are two large open pit operations that have recently been vended to new owners, and the new owners have plans that are a combination of extending some of that open pit at a different processing level and so forth. In some cases, there's clearly underground potential. As we talked about, some of these structures, they start from surface, they go down to 200-300 meters for an open pit. Now, lower than that or deeper than that, there's underground potential, but it's a different kind of rock, it's a different kind of processing, so there's a fresh capital investment required. We've seen that in the case of Syama, but really it's a matter of reaching the end of an economic sort of mine plan for a type of processing an open pit. Madani, I don't know if you have anything to add on a specific example for when operations cease. Case of Sadiola, it was well over 25 years of operation. There's very few that have been less than 5 to 10 years in operation. Madani, what would you say?
Thank you, Larry. Of the, I guess, the 12 operating mines, only one has stopped. It's the Yatela gold mine. That mine was planned for 6 years. It was an addition to Sadiola. And mine life was planned to be 6 years, and I think it ran for 13 years, I believe. That's the only one. Sadiola is still ongoing. IAMGOLD and AngloGold has sold it, but the mine is still producing, and the new owners are thinking at least 10 years production ongoing. Morila, which was a giant mine, is still producing. And that's the only mine which closed.
Okay, great. One of the things that might be quite striking to some of our participants is that these are all basically undrilled properties in southern Mali, which is pretty unusual for such a prolific gold belt. Maybe you could tell us a bit about how you came across these properties and what drew you to them.
All right. Well, to answer that question, I will turn it over to Madani. He and his group had done the initial work and plotting and selecting for 2-3 years before they were brought into Compass. So, Madani, how would you best respond to that?
I would say that those properties came from work we did in the 1990s on behalf of BHP Minerals, when we did regional exploration through that area between 1993 and 1997. Then BHP sold the properties to Randgold.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now we took over them in the recently, and we decided to go further on the work on the result we had at hand.
Right.
I think it's also worth noting there aren't a lot of outcrops or visible signs at surface. So, there had not been drilling on any of this ground. More recently, in the last, I guess, 5 to 6 years, artisanal working cropped up. So, in a sense, that's a surface or visible sign of gold being present beneath the surface. I think that's what Sandy was referring to when he talked about blind targets. They're underground, and there's nothing at surface geologically that you would see to indicate the presence of a mineral system.
I'd just like to add that the first drilling to take place anywhere on the Compass ground package was December 2018. So it's, yes, BHP had the ground, they did regional work, We've done high resolution airborne. We've drilled it. We've covered it in soil geochemistry. We have clear targets. Just to follow up on Madani's point there that like artisanal miners, they had access to this BHP data. There was one area of workings where they pulled out kilograms of gold, and it was based on a 220 parts per billion soil anomaly. So based on that anomaly, there were over 4,000 workers in that area. So a soil anomaly is only one part of the puzzle to identifying bedrock mineralization. That's why we're using a different soil technique. We're doing infill soils. We're doing airborne geophysics, ground geophysics. We've found a perfect technique for this part of the world that, as you can see at Tarabala, it means that it's such a good technique that rather than drilling 10 holes to intersect the structure, we can drill 3, and we know we will hit the structure twice on our 3 holes. So it's a case, it's layers. We're doing this smarter. By doing it smarter, we save money, and by doing these 2 things, our success rate is going up. So that's the important thing. It's a technically driven company with people that know what they're doing and people on the ground that are executing the program the best possible way.
Great. One of the things that you both alluded to was the rainy season in Mali, and the rainy seasons vary around different parts of Africa. Maybe you could give our listeners a bit of a general synopsis of when it tends to happen and how significant it is to the work that's being done.
I could try taking the first stab at that. There is a distinction between when it's actually raining and the rainy season, because work may be discontinued as early as first week of July and not resume for drilling until late November. But that has to do with the ground conditions. So depending on where your permit is and where it's situated, the effect of rain on and off, it might only be 4 or 5 weeks of rain, but it softens the ground, so trucks, building pads can't be done safely or effectively. You also have crops that come up in that season, so certain access routes aren't available if there's actually been crops that have not yet been harvested. So it's a combined effect. That's why our strategy this year is so important, to get the drill results and the drill plans done early enough so that you can go in, establish your access routes, roads, paths, trails, and build the pads, have them ready to go so that your drills can get to the locations, be mounted securely. You're not going to get literally bogged down. So, and some of our properties, as you'll note, we're adjacent to a water reservoir. So in the scheme of things, Mali being a overall desert country, we've got a lot of moisture here to plan around and organize around.
Yeah, that's a good point, because normally one of the issues in Mali is sourcing water. But around you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's another question from a participant, which is one of my favorite questions to ask CEOs is, what, if anything, keeps you up at night about the company?
Well, I think, like any junior company, you want your work to be moving forward aggressively and productively, but you are raising capital in increments that see you ahead to either 6 months, 8 months, or a year. So you want to be able to match your ability to get results and move forward, but not leave yourself where either work is unfinished or you're down to a low level of cash where you're dependent, because there's volatility in this market. We've had great support and loyalty from our core shareholders, but we have to continue growing our shareholder base. And so making sure that we're bringing results to the market in a timely way. So, running low on money where you need to turn to the market where the timing wouldn't be great, that's probably a common concern that we on the corporate side really have to be attuned to.
Yeah, and sort of managing expectations as well.
Absolutely.
Right. Maybe we'll just finish up with one last question because we're running up over 45 minutes here. One of our participants or multiple participants asking, with all the changes that have gone on at Endeavor more recently, have you had time to be in touch with them? Did you get any feeling of their interest in the company and the project?
I've actually spoken with the senior folks at Endeavor several times. They're getting their arms around two large packages of properties, not just the Semifo portfolio, which is where the Kalina property adjacent to our properties came in, but also their more recent purchase of Teranga. And having been through similar circumstances in our IM Gold days with significant mergers and acquisitions, we know that they need a few months to set their priorities and align resources and so forth. What I do know is they are the largest West African producer, and that is their bailiwick. They have been and I believe will continue to be focused on Mali, because this is a gold district that you simply can't ignore as a major producer. So beyond that, they're watching our results and progress. And certainly as we come to the second quarter of this year, I know we'll be on the discussion table with them in terms of how best for them to follow their investment and participate in the next stage of the company.
Excellent. Well, we're very excited about the future for Compass Gold. We're big fans of the geography you're in, and obviously the technical team and all the experience, both in exploration and in managing companies, is far in excess of what a normal junior of your size would normally have. So we're thrilled to have you on board. And we're looking forward to getting the story out about Compass Gold in the coming months as you start with the drill program. So with that, I think we'll wrap up the webinar here. And I just want to sincerely thank you, Larry, and Sandy, and Dr. Diallo for taking the time to be with us, as well, of course, as the audience members for participating. Red Cloud's next webinar will be with Trillium Gold Mines on Monday, January 25th at 2 p.m., which will be hosted by Taylor Combaluzier, and will include Russell Starr, who's the president and CEO of Trillium. And thanks again, and stay safe, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good day.